So they revealed a lot of things at San Diego Comic-Con. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to cover it. I know usually I do talk, maybe a little bit about the new releases and stuff. I know the last couple of times I talked a little bit about the NECA TMNT stuff, and don't get me wrong, I still want to, even though, a little bit of time's passed. So, but I guess in a way I still kind of want to give my initial opinion. So I guess just to kind of be a little different, Masters of the Universe, why not? It's been a while, and look, I collect some of the figures from time to time. I mean, I haven't been buying any recently, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. Of course, I'm talking about both Origins and Masterverse. Now, obviously, the original intent was to talk about their controversial, using AI for the packaging and all that. And, I still want to talk about it because, as some of you guys know, I'm kind of against it. I'm just going to say, as someone who's trying to have a career in art, obviously it does bum me out to a certain point, and it sucks because they generally make great figures. And I know that they recently announced that they're going to be making Origin figures based off of the 2000 series, which, hey, that's great. Why not? And honestly, it makes sense because it's like eventually they were gonna, kind of run out of ideas in a sense. They're already doing Masters of the Universe crossover with Transformers, so it's like, okay, they look cool, but like, I'm not a Transformers fan, so it's like, should I really buy it? Because I'm only really gonna buy it because I like Masters of the Universe. Now, don't get me wrong. Then when they did that crossover with Thundercats, I think honestly that kind of makes sense. I'm just gonna say it here. I know a lot of people didn't had the best viewpoint when it came to those figures. I thought they looked nice. I think they look really cool. So it's a little unfortunate to see that a lot of people don't really like those figures as much. They do seem a little more different, and I understand some of the criticisms here and there, but that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is, of course, as great as these figures are, why are they so hard to buy? I mean, obviously, as some of you guys might know, maybe a few years ago, I kind of found out when I was first starting to get into the line, but it's a shame to know that when it comes to their Origins line, they decided to make them Mattel Creations exclusive, meaning you can only really buy those figures on their website, which sucks because I've been on their website, and mind you, you want to find those figures, and most of the time, they're just sold out and they're not there. So it's like, oh, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Go on eBay, and pay like an excessive amount of money for that? I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. I don't want to be doing that. And, I'd be willing to admit that there has been times where I probably did buy a couple of figures from there on eBay. They weren't outrageously expensive. They were still relatively affordable. Don't get me wrong. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that how am I supposed to get hyped up for all these new figures if they're still going to make them hard to find? I'm just saying, though. You gotta be lucky to find them out in the wild. When I did my last toy hunt, I was shocked to find at least 2 of the figures based off of the, Master Universe and Thundercats crossover. I mean, I wanted to buy them, but it's like, okay, with where I am financially, I'm in a situation where I could definitely buy a whole ton of figures if I want, but I kind of can't, or maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. I'm kind of going through a couple of things here and there when it comes to that. Long story short, you know what? Nah, we don't need to get into that. Yeah, a lot of things behind the scenes, but it's not outrageous or anything like that, and don't get me wrong, it's not a financial situation at all, because, okay, fine, most figures now cross between like around 20 or 25 bucks. It really does kind of depend on what you're buying though, because I know that when it comes to their Masterverse figures, I'm pretty sure that you're paying a pretty good penny with that as well. I'm pretty sure that's around like the $24.99 mark. And that's the thing too, they revealed so many like awesome looking ones. Like, it's incredible how they look. But this is where I get conflicted again. At least when it comes to the Masterverse figures, they're somewhat more easier to find. And, I wouldn't really call it affordable. It's still pretty expensive, but at least they're not as expensive as their Origins figures. Because I've noticed that with the Master of the Universe and Transformers crossover that they're doing, I've noticed that they were kind of surfacing around like almost like 30 to 35 bucks. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, come on now, I mean, I would say that Amazon's your friend in this case because I've actually have bought a good portion of figures from Amazon, which, you know, I probably did film a little bit in the past, but I'm honestly not exactly too sure because I just started doing my new unboxing playlist like about a month ago or so, whatever how long I started. You know, so I don't know, just to kind of give you an idea. You know, I hate that this is a toy line that I actually see a lot of great, you know, things in it, but it's like you got all these weird other things around it. It's like, you know, I hope that this company kind of changes with that in the future, but I highly doubt it if I'm being honest. I hate that they produce great figures, but then you got all this other weird stuff that kind of makes them hard to enjoy the line, if that makes sense. And then that makes me concerned, especially with their DC lineup, because since McFarlane is no longer, and I guess towards the end of the year or at least in early 2026, that's when he loses the DC toy line, you know, license, and it all kind of goes back to Mattel. And there was a lot of debate over if that's a good thing or not. As long as they kind of match up with like their Masterverse figures, I kind of don't mind. But obviously, with all their other practices, like making too many exclusives and all that, like I really can't enjoy the Origins line anymore. I really, you know, I mean, I try, you know, if you're, like I said, if you're lucky enough to kind of find them in the wild, hey, that's great. Because there's always, honestly, like I remember, like I don't know if you guys probably seen it, but you know, I remember I found freaking Trap Jaw, but it was like the original Trap Jaw when they made the first wave, and you know how rare that figure is now. Well, it's probably not rare now, but you get the point. I mean, that's out of the blue. You know what I mean? That's a figure that you would have definitely never expected to kind of get a re-release. You know, so oh man, like the point that I'm trying to make here is that I generally do like this toy line, but I hate that they got all this other stuff in the way where it's like, okay, they made some of these exclusives, make them kind of hard to find, and it's like, you know, that's just not a fun way to enjoy everything. Like, come on now. And there's always a little more to it, so, you know, I rather this video don't be super long. You know, I definitely want to talk about the whole AI packaging thing, because while I don't really see it so far, or maybe it's hard to tell, who knows, maybe they already started it, we just don't see it yet. Who knows what's gonna happen with that? I don't know. There's still a lot to cover though, so this video is more of a prelude to that. You know, I'm making my point here. You know, great figures, but they're hard to find, I guess. I don't know. That's sort of the message I got kind of going on here. And I guess that's about it for now. I'm kind of depending on what do I want to talk about next. I want to talk about the new Fantastic Four movie, and with all the weird craziness going on with this box office and all that. Well, I'm a little bit afraid to talk about it, but it is what it is. You know, I'll leave it up to you guys this time. You know, that's how we do it. You know, I gotta, you know, obviously I do have some plans for when it comes to like the toy reviews, as well as maybe future, you know, I would like to do like more gaming walkthroughs and all that. You know, I've been kind of teasing that a little bit throughout the channel. You know, some of you guys probably know what I'm talking about, but until then, I'll just leave it like that. My dog's been sleeping the whole time, so that's great. Fantastic. All right, so whatever, as always, leave a like and subscribe, and that's about it. See ya.